Standing beneath the towering stones of Stonehenge, as the first light of dawn creeps over the horizon, it's impossible not to feel a shiver of awe. These ancient monuments, scattered across the globe, seem to whisper secrets from a time long forgotten. Who built them? How did they achieve such precision without the tools we take for granted today? And perhaps most intriguing of all, why did they go to such extraordinary lengths to align these structures with the stars, the sun, and even distant mountains? These aren't just piles of rock, they're silent testaments to a sophistication we're only beginning to understand. From the pyramids of Egypt to the sprawling megaliths of Carnac, these prehistoric monuments share something uncanny. Their alignments aren't random. They point to solstices, track celestial events, and sometimes even mirror constellations with eerie accuracy. What's truly mind-bending is that many of these sites were built thousands of years apart by cultures that supposedly never interacted, yet they share striking similarities. Could there have been a lost thread of knowledge connecting these ancient builders, or were they all tapping into something universal, a shared understanding of the cosmos that we've since forgotten? This is more than just a story about stones and stars. It's a puzzle that challenges everything we think we know about early human civilization. Were these monuments observatories, temples, or something even more profound? The answers might rewrite history, so let's journey together into the heart of these mysteries, where astronomy, architecture, and ancient wisdom collide. By the end, you won't just see these structures as relics, you'll see them as clues left behind by people who were far more advanced than we ever imagined. The truth is out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered. Consider the massive stones of Göbekli Tepe, carved and arranged with precision over 11,000 years ago, long before the invention of the wheel, let alone advanced tools. This ancient site in modern-day Turkey forces us to rethink what we know about early human societies. Far from simple hunter-gatherers, the builders displayed an astonishing grasp of geometry, engineering, and even astronomy. The circular enclosures, adorned with intricate animal reliefs, aren't just art, they're deliberate arrangements, some aligned with the rising of certain stars or the solstices. How did people without written language or metal tools achieve such feats? The answer might lie in something we often overlook: the power of collective memory and oral tradition. Then there's Carnac in France, where thousands of standing stones stretch for miles like a petrified army. The sheer scale is staggering, but what's truly fascinating is their alignment. Many of these megaliths point toward the sunrise during the winter solstice, suggesting they served as a giant calendar or ceremonial pathway. Imagine the coordination required to erect these monuments, centuries of labor, passed down through generations, all for a purpose we can only guess at. Were they marking sacred ground, honoring ancestors, or tracking time itself? The more we study them, the clearer it becomes. These weren't haphazard piles of rock. They were carefully planned, imbued with meaning that transcended mere survival. What ties these distant sites together isn't just their age or mystery, it's the undeniable fact that their builders saw the world differently than we do. For them, the land wasn't just a place to live, it was a canvas, and the sky was a map. The solstices, equinoxes, and star cycles weren't abstract concepts. They were sacred events woven into the very fabric of their existence. That's why these monuments endure. They're not just relics of the past, they're messages waiting for us to listen. And as we piece together their secrets, we might just rediscover a way of thinking that modern life has long forgotten. Stonehenge isn't just a ring of weathered rocks, it's a masterpiece of ancient engineering, a puzzle wrapped in layers of time. Picture this: 80 giant sarsen stones, some weighing over 25 tons, dragged across nearly 20 miles of rugged terrain. Then comes the real shocker. The blue stones, smaller but no less mysterious, hauled all the way from the Preseli Hills in Wales, over 150 miles away. How? Theories abound. Some suggest glaciers deposited them during the Ice Age, while others argue for a monumental effort involving sledges, ropes, and sheer human determination. But the how is only half the story. The true genius of Stonehenge lies in its celestial choreography. Stand at the center at dawn on the summer solstice, and you'll witness the sun rise directly over the heel stone, casting a golden path through the monument. The winter solstice sunset aligns just as precisely, framed by the towering trilithons. Even more astonishing are the Aubrey holes, a ring of pits once holding wooden posts or stones that may have tracked the moon's 18.6-year cycle. This wasn't just a calendar, it was a celestial clock built with a precision that rivals modern instruments. Yet Stonehenge's purpose remains hotly debated. Was it a temple for sun worship, a healing site, as the blue stone's reputed mystical properties suggest, or perhaps a grand cemetery, given the human remains found nearby? The answer might be all of the above. What's undeniable is that its builders saw the sky as sacred, a bridge between worlds. Unlike modern astronomers peering through telescopes, they sculpted their understanding of the cosmos into the very earth. The most humbling realization: Stonehenge wasn't built in isolation. Similar solar alignments appear in Newgrange's Passage Tomb in Ireland and the pyramids of Giza. Separated by continents and millennia, these cultures shared a universal language written in stone and sunlight. Maybe that's the real mystery, not how they built it, but why so many ancient peoples echoed the same celestial patterns. Were they speaking to the gods or leaving a message for us? Every alignment, every weathered groove in the stones feels like a whisper across time, urging us to look up and remember. Rising from the desert sands like a geometric mirage, the Great Pyramid of Giza defies logic with its near-perfect alignment to true north, the margin of error. A mere 3/60ths of a degree, a precision that would challenge modern architects with laser-guided tools. How did a civilization without compasses or satellites achieve such accuracy? One theory points to the ancient Egyptians tracking the circumpolar stars, using the slow rotation of the night sky as their celestial blueprint. They might have marked the shadows cast by a vertical rod during the autumn equinox, creating an east-west line with astonishing accuracy. But here's the twist: the pyramid doesn't just face north. Its sides curve slightly inward, a deliberate design that counteracts optical illusions caused by Earth's curvature, making the structure appear even more flawless to the human eye. Then there's the Orion connection. The three pyramids of Giza mirror the stars of Orion's belt with uncanny precision, but not as they appear today, rather as they would have shone in 10,500 BCE. This Orion correlation theory suggests the pyramids are part of a grand celestial map, with the Nile representing the Milky Way. Skeptics argue it could be coincidence, but the mathematical harmony is hard to ignore. The pyramid's dimensions encode pi, the golden ratio, and even Earth's measurement. Its perimeter divided by its height equals 2 pi, while its base relates to the planet's polar radius. Were these intentional mathematical messages, or simply the byproduct of a standardized measuring system? The mysteries multiply when we examine the construction itself. The granite coffer in the king's chamber was carved from a single block so precisely that modern diamond-tipped tools struggle to replicate its surface. No hieroglyphs explain these techniques, just silent stones that whisper of lost methods. Some researchers speculate about sound levitation or advanced machinery, while others insist the answer lies in patient ingenuity, with workers using copper tools, wet sand, and ramps we've yet to discover. Perhaps the greatest lesson isn't how they built it, but why. In a world where we measure progress in processor speeds, the pyramids remind us that true sophistication transcends technology. It's etched in the patience to align a monument with the cosmos and the vision to make stone speak across millennia. Buried beneath a windswept hill in southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe shatters everything we thought we knew about early human history. This sprawling complex of circular enclosures, each anchored by massive T-shaped pillars, wasn't built by farmers or city dwellers. It was crafted by hunter-gatherers over 11,000 years ago, a staggering 7 millennia before the Great Pyramid. That timeline alone rewrites the story of civilization. But what's truly baffling isn't just its age, it's the precision. The limestone pillars, some weighing 10 tons, were quarried and transported without wheels or pack animals, then adorned with intricate carvings of foxes, scorpions, and vultures so lifelike they seemed to pulse with energy. Why go to such lengths? The most haunting clue lies in what happened afterward. Göbekli Tepe wasn't abandoned, it was deliberately buried, layer by layer, as if sealing away something sacred. Some researchers believe this was part of a ritual, a symbolic death to preserve the site's power. Others point to the pillar's alignment with the star Sirius, suggesting the complex functioned as an astronomical observatory. Imagine standing here at dawn as the first light strikes a central pillar, illuminating carvings that might have served as a prehistoric star map. The sophistication is dizzying. How could a society without writing or agriculture coordinate such a project across generations? The answer might lie in the carvings themselves. Unlike later temples dedicated to gods, Göbekli Tepe's art focuses overwhelmingly on animals, predators, prey, and creatures that symbolize transformation, like snakes and birds. This wasn't just decoration, it was a language. Some theorize the site was a nexus for scattered hunter-gatherer clans, a place where they shared knowledge about migration patterns, celestial cycles, or even spiritual visions. The act of building together may have been as important as the structure itself, forging alliances that eventually led to settled communities. What makes Göbekli Tepe revolutionary isn't just its existence, it's what it implies. If hunter-gatherers could organize such monumental projects, perhaps agriculture and cities didn't spark civilization as we once believed. Maybe it was the other way around. The need to build sacred spaces like this one demanded new ways of living, pushing humans toward farming and permanence. Every carved pillar whispers a radical idea that our ancestors were far more than survivors. They were visionaries who looked to the stars and dared to etch their dreams into stone. Walking among the endless rows of Carnac standing stones feels like stepping into a giant's game of dominoes frozen in time. Over 3,000 megaliths stretch across the Breton landscape, some towering over 13 feet tall, arranged in eerily straight lines that vanish into the horizon. Local folklore spins tales of Roman legions turned to stone by a sorcerer or giants who once ruled the land, but the truth, as always, is far more fascinating than myth. What's striking isn't just the scale of Carnac's alignments, but their precision. Many rows point directly toward the rising sun during the winter solstice, while others frame the equinox sunrise like a celestial gateway. The largest concentration, known as the Menec alignment, forms a perfect rectangle nearly 4,000 feet long, with stones gradually increasing in height toward the west. This wasn't haphazard placement. It was a deliberate design, possibly functioning as a colossal astronomical calendar or ceremonial pathway. Imagine a procession moving between these stones as dawn light painted shadows that shifted with the seasons, marking sacred time in stone. Yet the purpose remains tantalizingly unclear. Some researchers argue the alignment served as territorial boundaries, dividing land between Neolithic clans. Others see them as ritual spaces where communities gathered for solstice celebrations or ancestor veneration. The nearby burial mounds and dolmens lend weight to this idea. Carnac wasn't just a standalone monument but part of a vast ritual landscape. And then there's the acoustics. Tests reveal that certain stones amplify sound in strange ways, leading to theories that drumming or chanting here might have created otherworldly echoes, blurring the line between earth and sky. What's most humbling is the sheer effort behind Carnac. Unlike Stonehenge's concentrated circle, these stones sprawl across miles, requiring generations of labor to erect. Without metal tools or written records, how did they maintain such consistency over centuries? The answer might lie in oral tradition, a carefully guarded knowledge passed down through storytellers and ritual keepers. Every aligned stone, every solstice marker, whispers of a society that measured its world not in years, but in celestial cycles, turning the land itself into a living map of the cosmos. Carnac doesn't just challenge our understanding of prehistoric Europe, it redefines it. These weren't primitive people, they were astronomers, engineers, and poets who carved their reverence for the universe into the very earth. And as the morning mist curls around the ancient stones, it's hard not to wonder, were they building for their time or leaving a message for ours? Newgrange rises from the emerald Irish landscape like a silent sentinel of the past. Its massive circular mound covering an acre of land and surrounded by 97 curbstones, each carved with swirling symbols that seem to pulse with hidden meaning. But step inside the narrow, 60-foot passageway, and you'll discover the tomb's true marvel, a chamber designed to capture the winter solstice sunrise with breathtaking precision. For just 17 minutes at dawn on December 21st, a slender beam of sunlight pierces the roof box, a carefully positioned opening above the entrance, and creeps steadily down the passage until it floods the central chamber in golden light. This isn't chance, it's celestial engineering on a scale that rivals modern observatories. The spiral carvings lining the walls, identical to those found at distant sites like Malta's Haga Kim, ignite even deeper questions. Were they maps of the heavens, symbols of rebirth, or perhaps a prehistoric language of the cosmos? The tomb's alignment is so exact that even a slight miscalculation in the roof box's angle would have thrown the solstice illumination off by days, proof that Newgrange's builders didn't just notice the sun's movements, they mastered them. How did a society without written records achieve such accuracy? Some researchers suggest decades of trial and error, with wooden markers slowly replaced by stone. Others propose that shamans or astronomer priests guarded celestial knowledge passed down through generations, turning myth into mortar. Yet Newgrange's purpose extends beyond astronomy. Human remains found inside, cremated and placed in recessed niches, hint at a sacred space where the living communed with ancestors during the sun's symbolic rebirth. The solstice light may have been seen as a bridge between worlds, a momentary reunion of the dead and the living. Nearby, the sister tombs of Noth and Douth share similar alignments, suggesting a ritual landscape where each structure played a role in a grand cosmic cycle. What's most striking is how Newgrange mirrors distant sites like Micho in Scotland, or even the Intihuatana stone at Machu Picchu, cultures separated by oceans and millennia, yet united by a shared reverence for the solstice. Was this a universal human impulse or evidence of a lost network of knowledge? The answer might lie in the tomb's final secret, its acoustics. The chamber amplifies certain frequencies, creating echoes that distort time and space. Rituals held here, bathed in solstice light and resonant sound, could have induced trance-like states, blurring the line between earthly and divine. Newgrange doesn't just challenge our timeline of technological progress, it redefines it. 5,000 years ago, people moved 40,000-pound stones without wheels, plotted solar cycles without calculators, and carved spirals that still mesmerize us today. They didn't just observe the sky, they wove it into the fabric of their spirituality, turning stone and sunlight into a testament of human ingenuity. Standing in that chamber as the solstice light spills in, you're not just witnessing an ancient feat of engineering, you're glimpsing a worldview where heaven and earth were inseparable, and every sunrise was a miracle. Easter Island's moai stand sentinel along the rugged coastline, their hollow eyes gazing eternally across the Pacific, or perhaps toward the heavens. These monolithic giants, some weighing over 80 tons, aren't just impressive feats of sculpture, they're celestial markers, their placements whispering secrets of a culture deeply attuned to the skies. While most visitors focus on their imposing profiles, fewer notice how certain moai align with the winter solstice sunrise, their backs turned to the sea as if guiding the sun's rebirth. Others face inland in precise clusters, possibly mapping constellations or ancestral migration paths. This isn't random artistry, it's a stone dialogue with the cosmos. The mystery deepens when you consider how these statues moved. The Rapa Nui people carved the moai from volcanic rock at Ronororaku, then transported them miles across uneven terrain, without wheels or large animals. Oral traditions speak of the statues walking, a poetic notion that might hold truth. Experiments show teams could rock moai forward using ropes, mimicking a staggering gait. Others argue for wooden sledges gliding over log rails, a theory supported by the island's ancient palm forests, later decimated for such projects. But the real question isn't just how they moved, but why risk such effort? The answer may lie in the statue's celestial choreography. Ahuakivi, a rare inland platform, holds 7 moai perfectly aligned with the equinox sunset, their backs to the ocean, an anomaly among coastal-facing statues. This precise arrangement suggests the Rapa Nui didn't just honor ancestors, they anchored them to celestial events, turning the island into a giant astronomical instrument. Even the statue's top knots, carved from red scoria, might symbolize comet trails or solar halos. The more we study these patterns, the clearer it becomes. The moai weren't solitary monuments. They were nodes in a sacred network linking earth and sky. What's haunting is how this astronomical wisdom faded. As resources dwindled, the statue cult collapsed, leaving half-carved moai in quarries and toppled giants along forgotten paths. Yet their celestial alignments endure, silent witnesses to a people who saw the stars as ancestors and stone as a bridge between worlds. In their shadow, you don't just wonder how they were built, you feel the urgency behind them, a civilization's plea to be remembered in the language of the cosmos. The Nazca Lines sprawl across Peru's arid plains like a giant sketchbook, their massive geoglyphs stretching for miles, spirals, trapezoids, and intricate animal figures so vast they vanish when you stand beside them. Only from the air does their true scale reveal itself, raising the obvious question: how, and more importantly why, would a culture without flight create art meant to be seen from above? Some researchers argue these lines were celestial maps, their shapes mirroring constellations as they appeared 2,000 years ago. The famous spider glyph, for instance, might represent the Orion constellation, its elongated legs matching specific star alignments during the Nazca era. Other glyphs, like the hummingbird or monkey, could symbolize constellations tied to seasonal rains, a vital concern in this parched landscape. Yet the lines aren't just artistic, they're astonishingly precise. Straight as laser beams, some run for over 30 miles without deviating even slightly, despite crossing hills and valleys. The Nazca achieved this without modern tools, likely using simple stakes and ropes to maintain alignment. But the real marvel lies in their dual purpose. Many lines point directly to mountain springs or underground water channels, suggesting they served as sacred pathways to life-giving sources. During solstices, certain alignments frame the rising or setting sun, turning the desert into a colossal ceremonial stage where earth and sky converge. This blend of practicality and spirituality deepens the mystery. Were the lines part of water rituals where processions followed their paths to invoke rain, or did they function as an astronomical calendar guiding planting and harvest cycles? The most haunting theory proposes they were walking temples, paths meant for ritual journeys, where the act of tracing these giant forms induced altered states of consciousness. Experiments show that walking long, straight lines in barren landscapes can trigger trance-like focus, possibly connecting participants to the divine. What's universally agreed upon is that the Nazca Lines weren't created in isolation. Similar geoglyphs appear in Chile's Atacama Desert and even North America, hinting at a shared ancient understanding of landscape as sacred canvas. Unlike stone monuments, these desert drawings required no quarrying or lifting, just the removal of dark surface pebbles to reveal lighter soil beneath. Yet their impermanence is deceptive. Sheltered by the desert's dry winds, they've endured for millennia, whispering of a culture that saw no divide between survival and the sacred. To walk these lines today isn't just to ponder their creation. It's to tread where ceremony and necessity once moved as one. Perched on a knife-edge ridge in the Peruvian Andes, Machu Picchu doesn't just dominate the landscape, it communes with it. Every terrace, temple, and staircase seems to echo the contours of the surrounding peaks, as if the city were carved from the mountains themselves. But look closer, and you'll discover something even more extraordinary. The entire site functions as a celestial instrument. Take the Intihuatana stone, its polished angles catching the sun with razor precision. At high noon during the equinoxes, this granite pillar becomes shadowless, a moment the Inca believed tethered the sun to prevent it from fleeing farther south. It wasn't just a calendar, it was an act of cosmic stewardship, a plea to maintain balance between earth and sky. The city's layout reveals even deeper layers of astronomical intent. The Temple of the Sun, with its semicircular tower, features a window perfectly aligned with the June solstice sunrise, bathing the interior in golden light. Nearby, the Temple of the Three Windows frames the Pleiades constellation during key agricultural festivals, linking star cycles to planting seasons. Even the urban design feels intentional. Main pathways follow the sun's trajectory, while sacred structures align with cardinal directions or significant celestial events. This wasn't haphazard construction, it was architecture as cosmology, stone translated into star charts. Yet Machu Picchu's purpose remains tantalizingly ambiguous. Was it a royal estate for Emperor Pachacuti, a spiritual sanctuary for sun-worshipping priestesses, or a living observatory where astronomy and agriculture intertwined? The answer might lie in its isolation. Unlike other Inca sites, it was never discovered by Spanish conquistadors, preserving its integrity as a time capsule. The absence of written records only deepens the mystery, leaving us to decode its secrets through alignments and oral traditions. What's undeniable is the sophistication behind its creation. Without mortar, the Inca fit stones so tightly that not even a blade can slip between them, a technique that's withstood centuries of earthquakes. They channeled mountain springs through intricate aqueducts, turning water into a sacred element woven through the city's veins. And they engineered terraces not just for farming, but to stabilize the mountainside, demonstrating an almost symbiotic relationship with the land. Machu Picchu's true genius might be its duality. It's both pragmatic and mystical, a fortress and a temple, a human achievement that humbly acknowledges its place in the cosmos. Standing there as dawn breaks over the Andes, you don't just see ruins, you feel the pulse of a civilization that measured its days by the stars and shaped stone to sing in harmony with the heavens. One of the most enduring theories about these celestial alignments points to agriculture, the idea that ancient monuments functioned as colossal calendars marking planting and harvest seasons. Picture a Neolithic farmer standing at Stonehenge as the summer solstice sun rises perfectly between the heel stone. That moment wasn't just spectacle, it was survival. By tracking the sun's movements, communities could predict seasonal changes with uncanny accuracy, ensuring crops were sown at the optimal time. The same logic applies to Egypt's pyramids, where the annual flooding of the Nile, a lifeline for agriculture, coincided with the rising of Sirius. These alignments weren't mystical guesswork, they were practical tools etched into the landscape, turning stone into a farmer's almanac. Yet not all alignments fit neatly into agricultural explanations. Take Newgrange's solstice light show, a phenomenon visible only to a handful of people crammed into its inner chamber. If this were purely a calendar, why hide it underground? This puzzle fuels an alternative theory that these monuments served as bridges between the physical and spiritual worlds. For cultures that saw the cosmos as alive with gods and ancestors, aligning structures with celestial events might have been a way to harness cosmic energy or commune with the divine. The Mayans, for instance, designed their pyramids so the equinox sun would cast a serpent-like shadow slithering down the steps, a visual representation of Kukulkan, their feathered serpent deity descending to earth. Here, astronomy and theology merge, suggesting these alignments were less about counting days and more about summoning the sacred. Then there's the fringe, but fascinating idea that these patterns encode advanced knowledge meant to outlast civilizations. The pyramid's mathematical precision, Göbekli Tepe's potential star maps, and the Nazca Lines' possible constellation links all hint at a deliberate effort to preserve information. Could these alignments be a prehistoric hard drive, storing astronomical data or even warnings about cosmic cycles like comet strikes or solar flares? While mainstream archaeology often dismisses such claims as speculative, the consistency of certain alignments across disconnected cultures raises eyebrows. Why would Bronze Age builders in Britain and Egypt both embed pi and the golden ratio into their structures unless they shared some lost geometric wisdom? What unites these theories is something deeper than practicality or spirituality. It's humanity's innate drive to make sense of the universe. Whether through crop cycles, sacred rituals, or encoded messages, these alignments reveal a universal truth. Our ancestors looked up and saw not random stars, but a story they longed to understand, and perhaps to pass on. The stones still stand, not as dead relics, but as invitations to keep searching for the connections they so carefully charted. Archaeoastronomy peels back the layers of time to reveal how ancient civilizations transformed the night sky into a living map. At Chichen Itza, the Pyramid of Kukulkan becomes a serpent slithering down the steps during equinoxes, an effect so precise it could only be achieved through generations of celestial observation. But this wasn't mere spectacle. It was a fusion of science and spirituality, where architecture served as both clock and altar. The discipline thrives on these intersections, using modern star mapping software to reverse engineer ancient skies, revealing how structures like Scotland's Callanish stones align with the moon's extreme standstill positions every 18.6 years. These patterns weren't accidental. They were deliberate, painstakingly plotted by cultures that saw the cosmos as a guidebook for everything from harvests to holy days. Yet archaeoastronomy also grapples with paradoxes. While some alignments like the solstice markers at Egypt's Abu Simbel are undeniably precise, others blur the line between intention and coincidence. Take the 3,000-year-old sun dagger at New Mexico's Fajota Butte, where sunlight slices through spiral petroglyphs during solar milestones. Was this a ceremonial calendar or a natural phenomenon later imbued with meaning? The challenge lies in discerning ancient intent without projecting modern biases. Indigenous oral traditions often hold answers, like the Aboriginal songlines that navigate by stars, embedding astronomy into storytelling. These living threads remind us that for many cultures, the sky wasn't just observed, it was woven into identity. The field's greatest revelation might be its diversity of purpose. In Mesopotamia, ziggurats doubled as observatories for predicting omens, while England's Avebury uses its massive henge to frame lunar cycles. Some alignments, like those at Cambodia's Angkor Wat, correlate with Hindu cosmology, turning temples into three-dimensional star charts. Others, like the Bighorn Medicine Wheel in Wyoming, align with both solstice sunrises and key stars like Sirius and Aldebaran, suggesting a blend of practical and ceremonial functions. This variety shatters the myth of a single, ancient astronomer archetype, revealing instead a tapestry of sky-watching traditions, each tailored to its culture's needs and beliefs. What keeps archaeoastronomy vibrant is its unanswered questions. Could the Nazca Lines spider glyph really mirror Orion's belt as it appeared millennia ago? Did the builders of Baalbek's megaliths orient their platform to celestial events we've yet to decipher? Every alignment studied is a conversation starter, not a closed case. The stars these ancient observers charted are the same ones we see today, but their interpretations transform cold astronomy into something deeply human, a reminder that our ancestors didn't just live under the sky. They spoke its language, and in their silent stones, they left us a lexicon we're still learning to read. The granite coffer inside the Great Pyramid's King's Chamber tells a silent but staggering story. Its surface is polished to a mirror finish, corners cut at perfect 90-degree angles, all achieved without iron tools or modern abrasives. How some researchers point to the V-shaped grooves in Egyptian quarries, where diorite pounders, a stone harder than granite, were used to carve blocks with almost surgical precision. Yet even this explanation leaves gaps. The sarcophagus's interior corners are so sharp and precise that recreating them today would require diamond-tipped drills. This isn't just craftsmanship, it's a level of precision that borders on the impossible. Could the ancients have possessed tools we've yet to uncover? Across the ocean in Peru, the mystery deepens. The walls of Sacsayhuaman Fortress near Cusco are a jigsaw puzzle of massive, irregularly shaped stones fitting together so tightly that not even a sheet of paper can slide between them. The curves and angles defy explanation. No mortar, no gaps, just seamless joins that have withstood centuries of earthquakes. Modern engineers struggle to replicate this technique, known as polygonal masonry. Some theorists suggest the builders used a now-lost method involving softening stone with plant acids or even sound waves, though mainstream archaeology dismisses these claims as speculative. The truth may lie in something simpler but no less extraordinary: generations of artisans refining their craft to near mathematical perfection through trial and error. Then there's the enigma of Puma Punku's andesite blocks in Bolivia, cut with such geometric precision they resemble machine-made components. Straight edges, uniform drill holes, and intricate channels suggest the use of advanced saws or even lathes, technologies supposedly millennia ahead of their time. Skeptics argue these feats could be achieved with copper tools and sand abrasives, given enough patience, but the sheer consistency across hundreds of blocks raises questions. Were these the work of artisans with lifetimes to spare, or evidence of a sophisticated toolkit lost to history? What unites these sites isn't just precision, it's purpose. The Egyptians didn't polish granite coffers for vanity. They believed perfect surfaces held spiritual significance. The Incas' seamless walls weren't just earthquake-proof, they symbolized harmony between humanity and nature. This fusion of function and meaning hints at a deeper truth. Perhaps what we call lost technology wasn't just about tools, but a lost way of seeing, where every cut, every angle, was a dialogue between the physical and the divine. The stones remain silent witnesses to a mastery we're still deciphering, one chisel mark at a time. The Great Pyramid of Giza and the Pyramid of the Sun at Teotihuacan stand worlds apart, not just in distance but in time, culture, and tradition. Yet when you lay their blueprints side by side, the similarities send a shiver down your spine. Both structures align within fractions of a degree to true north. Both incorporate mathematical constants like pi into their dimensions. Both even feature internal passageways that mirror celestial paths. How could two civilizations separated by oceans and millennia arrive at such parallel designs? One school of thought insists this isn't coincidence, it's evidence of forgotten connections. The Polynesians, after all, crossed vast oceans in outrigger canoes long before Europeans dared sail beyond sight of land. Could Bronze Age Egyptians or their predecessors have ventured similarly? Ancient accounts like Herodotus's Tales of Phoenician Circumnavigation hint at possibilities. Even more compelling are genetic traces of South American sweet potatoes in Polynesia and Mediterranean cocaine metabolites in Egyptian mummies, suggesting pre-Columbian transoceanic contact. If plants and people could cross oceans, why not ideas? Yet another perspective argues that these parallels stem not from contact, but from something deeper, the universal human experience under the same sky. Every culture watched the solstices, tracked the stars, and sought to honor the forces that governed their survival. When you depend on the sun for crops or the stars for navigation, aligning your sacred structures with celestial events becomes instinctual. The pyramid shape itself may be less a shared secret than a logical conclusion, the most stable form for towering monuments, emerging independently across cultures, much like the invention of pottery or the bow and arrow. The debate intensifies when we examine specific alignments. Take the dual serpent motifs at Giza's pyramid temples and Mesoamerica's El Castillo, both tied to equinox light displays. Or the way Stonehenge's summer solstice sunrise alignment echoes the sun dagger phenomenon at New Mexico's Choco Canyon. These aren't just broad similarities, they're precise technical choices that suggest either shared knowledge or a shared cognitive framework for interpreting the cosmos. Perhaps the truth lies between extremes. While direct contact seems unlikely for some cultures, others may have exchanged ideas through intermediary traders or migratory groups. The Olmec's sudden mastery of astronomy and monumental architecture around 1200 BCE coincides curiously with the decline of the Afro-Asiatic maritime cultures. Could whispers of celestial knowledge have traveled along forgotten trade winds? What's undeniable is that these connections, whether born of contact or convergent ingenuity, reveal something profound about our ancestors. Faced with the same stars, the same seasons, and the same human curiosity, cultures across the globe arrived at eerily similar solutions. That's the real mystery here, not just how they built these monuments, but how they all seem to hear the same cosmic whisper, urging them to reach for the sky. Etched into the stones of Newgrange, the triple spiral swirls with hypnotic precision, its curves echoing across millennia. This same motif appears at Malta's Tarxian temples and on Iberian dolmens, a pattern too consistent to dismiss as chance. Were these carvings mere decoration or a primal language whispering secrets we've forgotten? At Göbekli Tepe, the answer might lie in the vultures. Their outstretched wings stretch across pillars, not as random art but as a possible map of the Cygnus constellation as it appeared 11,000 years ago. The animals here aren't just depicted, they're positioned, with foxes and scorpions arranged in sequences that mirror star groups during the Younger Dryas period. This isn't doodling, it's celestial storytelling in stone. Then there's the labyrinthine spiral, recurring from Ireland's passage tombs to the American Southwest's petroglyphs. Some researchers see these as symbols of rebirth, tracing the sun's cyclical journey. Others propose they represent altered states of consciousness, the twisting paths mimicking neural patterns seen in trance visions. At Bryn Celyn in Wales, a carved serpentine stone aligns with the summer solstice sunrise, its grooves channeling light like a prehistoric sundial. The message seems clear: these carvings weren't separate from the monument's alignments. They were integral to their purpose, blending art, astronomy, and spirituality into a single language. What's haunting is how these symbols transcend geography. The zigzag patterns on Scottish standing stones mirror those on Mesopotamian cylinder seals, while the cup and ring marks of Europe's Atlantic coast bear uncanny resemblance to Aboriginal Australian rock art. Could these shared motifs point to a universal human vocabulary, emerging independently as cultures grappled with similar mysteries: life, death, and the heavens? Or does their persistence hint at something more profound, like fragments of a lost proto-culture whose influence rippled across continents? Decoding them requires more than archaeology. It demands anthropology, neurology, even astrophysics. The serpent carving at Micho, for instance, only becomes visible during the winter solstice sunset, its body illuminated inch by inch as shadows retreat. This interplay of light and stone suggests the carvers understood not just art but physics, engineering their designs to activate during specific celestial moments. Similarly, the concentric circles at Loughcrew in Ireland transform during equinoxes into dynamic light displays, proving these weren't static images but interactive sacred technology. Perhaps the most poignant clue comes from living traditions. The Maori's Koru spiral, representing unfolding fern fronds and new life, mirrors Neolithic European spirals in both form and meaning. Indigenous elders from the Americas describe petroglyphs not as decorations, but as teaching tools, mnemonic devices encoding navigation routes, creation stories, and warnings. If modern oral traditions preserve these meanings, might we be overlooking similar intentionality in ancient carvings? The stones have been speaking all along. Our challenge isn't just to listen, but to relearn the language they're using. The idea that extraterrestrials or a forgotten super-civilization built ancient monuments like the pyramids or Stonehenge has captured imaginations for decades. Proponents point to the mind-bending precision of these structures. How could Bronze Age people, without modern tools, align multi-ton stones with celestial events to within fractions of a degree? The gaps in our archaeological record become fertile ground for speculation. When mainstream science can't definitively explain how the massive blocks at Baalbek were moved, or why Göbekli Tepe's carvings seem to mirror ancient star maps, alternative theories rush in to fill the void. But there's a deeper psychology at work here too. These narratives tap into something primal, a desire for the past to be grander, more mysterious than the slow grind of human progress. Take the ancient astronaut theory popularized by shows like Ancient Aliens. Its appeal lies in its simplicity. If humans couldn't have achieved these feats alone, then someone or something must have helped them. The Nazca Lines, visible only from the air, become landing strips for spacecraft. The Antikythera mechanism, an ancient Greek celestial calculator, transforms into proof of alien technology. Yet this perspective often does a disservice to the ingenuity of our ancestors. The Maya, for instance, meticulously tracked Venus cycles without telescopes, while Polynesians navigated thousands of ocean miles using star pulsations. Dismissing these accomplishments as impossible without outside help ignores the sheer power of human observation, patience, and shared knowledge across generations. Then there's the myth of Atlantis and other lost civilizations, a tantalizing notion that some advanced society predated all known cultures, leaving behind cryptic clues in megalithic ruins. Plato's allegorical tale of a sunken island has morphed into a catch-all explanation for archaeological anomalies. But here's the irony: real, lost civilizations like the Indus Valley or the Minoans were rediscovered through painstaking archaeology, not myth-chasing. The obsession with a single, superior precursor culture also overlooks the diversity of human innovation. The Incas' earthquake-proof masonry, the Olmec's celestial observatories, and Egypt's pyramid mathematics all emerged independently, each a unique response to their environment and beliefs. Why do these theories endure despite overwhelming scholarly pushback? Partly because they're compelling stories. They turn history into a cosmic detective drama, where every aligned stone might be a breadcrumb left by star travelers. But they also reveal a modern anxiety that we've lost some primordial connection to the cosmos our ancestors seem to possess. When we stare at the Great Pyramid's flawless geometry or Puma Punku's machined like stonework, it's easier to imagine divine intervention than to accept that ordinary humans, given enough time and motivation, could achieve the extraordinary. The truth is, archaeology's slow, methodical work rarely offers instant gratification. It took decades to uncover how Easter Island's moai were walked into place using ropes, or how Stonehenge's bluestones were transported via sledges and waterways. These discoveries don't diminish the monument's wonder, they amplify it. Every aligned stone, every carved spiral becomes a testament to collaboration, creativity, and the universal human urge to reach beyond the earthly. The real mystery isn't whether aliens or Atlanteans intervened. It's how cultures separated by millennia and continents arrived at such similar visions of the sacred. That's a story far richer than any sci-fi fantasy. Imagine a master builder standing beside an unfinished pyramid, whispering measurements to an apprentice not with numbers but through song. This might sound poetic, but for cultures without writing, rhythm and rhyme were the original hard drive's tools for preserving complex knowledge across generations. The Kogi people of Colombia, for instance, still train their priests from childhood with chanted lessons that encode star cycles and ecological wisdom, a living echo of how Neolithic astronomers might have passed down solstice alignments. Their oral tradition, known as the Great Mother's Law, weaves astronomy into myth so seamlessly that the movement of constellations becomes part of creation stories. The Druids of ancient Europe left no written records of Stonehenge's construction, yet classical historians like Caesar noted their reliance on verse for preserving knowledge. Modern experiments reveal why, when information is set to melody or meter, recall accuracy skyrockets. Australian Aboriginal song lines demonstrate this perfectly. These intricate oral maps describe landscape features in rhythmic verses, allowing navigation across thousands of miles. Some song lines double as astronomical guides, with stanzas timed to the rising of specific stars. If a culture could memorize entire continents in song, memorizing the angle of a solstice sunrise would be child's play. But oral traditions did more than just transmit data, they safeguarded it through redundancy. The Maori Whakapapa genealogical chants layer celestial events with family histories, ensuring that even if one element fades, others preserve the timeline. Similarly, West African griots recite histories where kings' reigns are pinned to comet appearances. This intertwining of the cosmic and the personal created fail-safes. Forget the date of a lunar eclipse, and it might still be preserved as the year grandmother was born when the moon turned red. The most compelling evidence for oral traditions' precision comes from matching indigenous sky knowledge with archaeological finds. In North America, Pawnee star charts passed down orally for centuries accurately depict the precession of the equinoxes, a phenomenon that takes 26,000 years to complete. Their Earth lodges mirror these charts, with entrance alignments matching the stars' ancient positions. Similarly, when archaeologists compared Navajo oral histories with Choco Canyon's alignments, they found solstice markers described in stories unchanged for 800 years. What modern science often dismisses as myth may be encrypted observation. The Cherokee story of the great buzzard-shaping mountains with its wings, for example, precisely matches geologic evidence of an ancient meteor impact. If such events could be preserved in story for millennia, why not the timing of Venus cycles or the moon's wobble? The stones we marvel at today may just be the punctuation marks in sentences first spoken around fires 10,000 years ago. When a Navajo elder today points to a petroglyph and recites a constellation chant unchanged since his ancestors walked to Chaco, we're not just hearing a story, we're witnessing the unbroken voice of prehistory. The rolling plains surrounding Stonehenge weren't chosen by accident. They sit atop a network of underground water channels, invisible from the surface but critical to the monument's placement. These hidden springs, long revered as sacred, may explain why Neolithic builders hauled bluestones over 150 miles from Wales instead of using local sarsen stones alone. Water wasn't just a practical necessity, it was a spiritual force weaving the land and sky into a single living system. The same principle echoes at Peru's Machu Picchu, where the Inca carved staircases into mountainsides to channel glacial meltwater into ceremonial baths, turning hydrological engineering into an act of worship. Mountain peaks held similar power. The Temple of the Sun at Pisac in Peru clings to a cliffside 2,000 feet above the Urubamba River, its windows framing the June solstice sunrise over a distant sacred peak. For the Inca, these alignments weren't symbolic, they were direct conduits to the gods. Even Göbekli Tepe's hilltop perch served dual purposes, a vantage point for tracking celestial events and a natural amphitheater amplifying ritual drumming across the plains below. Elevation wasn't just about visibility, it transformed monuments into thresholds between earth and heaven. Celestial sightlines dictated placement with equal precision. Carnac's megaliths in France stretch for miles along a ridge precisely angled to catch the winter solstice sunrise, while Scotland's Callanish stones form a cross-shaped alignment targeting the moon's extreme northern rise every 18.6 years. These weren't passive observations, they were acts of reciprocity. By marking where the sun turned back at solstices, ancient cultures believed they helped maintain cosmic order. The land became a mirror for the sky, with stones acting as anchors tethering celestial cycles to human survival. The most revealing clues lie in what these sites lack. Stonehenge's original builders avoided the fertile valleys nearby, opting instead for open high ground where the horizon met the heavens unimpeded. Similarly, Newgrange's mound in Ireland faces a barren hillside, its solstice lightbox designed to ignite a single chamber rather than illuminate a settlement. These choices reveal a world view where practicality and spirituality merged, where tracking seasons wasn't just about planting crops, but synchronizing human rhythms with the pulse of the universe. Modern laser scans of these landscapes uncover even deeper connections. At Choco Canyon, ancient roads radiate from ceremonial centers like spokes, not leading to settlements but aligning with lunar standstill points. In Turkey's Cappadocia, entire cities were carved underground not just for shelter, but to align ventilation shafts with star positions. Everywhere we look, the environment wasn't a backdrop, it was an active participant in design, shaping monuments as vessels for both survival and transcendence. What emerges is a pattern far richer than mere functionality. These builders didn't just adapt to their surroundings, they conversed with them, turning springs into altars, mountains into calendars, and starlight into scripture. The stones we marvel at today weren't placed in isolation. They're the surviving fragments of a lost language, one that spoke in waterfalls, shadows, and the slow dance of constellations. To understand them, we must learn to read the land as they did, not as a stage, but as a sacred script written in rock and sky. Picture the summer solstice at Stonehenge, not as we see it today with crowds of modern visitors, but as it might have been 4,000 years ago. Torchlight flickers against the standing stones as hundreds gather in pre-dawn darkness. The air hums with chanting, the scent of burning herbs mingling with damp grass. Then, as the first sliver of sun breaches the horizon, a hush falls. The golden light slices perfectly between the uprights of the great trilithon, illuminating a priest or shaman standing at the altar stone. This wasn't just a calendar event, it was a cosmic performance where architecture and human ritual became inseparable. Across the Atlantic, the Nazca Lines transformed into ceremonial pathways during key astronomical events. Imagine barefoot processions tracing the giant spider or hummingbird glyphs by moonlight, their movements synchronized with celestial cycles. The desert floor, heated by day, would have radiated warmth underfoot as participants followed these immense designs, some over 600 feet long, not just walking, but perhaps dancing, singing, or reenacting creation myths. The line's sheer scale suggests these weren't private rituals but communal spectacles, uniting scattered groups in a shared experience of the sacred. Sound played an equally transformative role. At Ireland's Newgrange, the solstice light show wasn't silent. The chamber's acoustics amplify specific frequencies. A drumbeat or chant would reverberate with otherworldly intensity as sunlight flooded the space. Recent experiments show that certain Neolithic carvings, like those at Scotland's Kilmartin Glen, produce distinct echoes when struck, suggesting they might have been rock gongs used in ceremonies. The monuments weren't just seen, they were heard, their stones vibrating with rhythms that connected participants to something beyond the visible. The most vivid evidence comes from artifacts left behind. At Stonehenge, archaeologists uncovered cremated remains adorned with rare bluestone chips, tokens carried from Wales, linking the dead to the monument's distant origins. In Peru, offerings of spondylus shells, sacred to the Inca, were placed along ley lines at Machu Picchu during equinox ceremonies. These weren't arbitrary gifts, they were carefully chosen to mirror celestial patterns, like the shell's red hues echoing the rising sun. What emerges is a world where architecture and ritual were two halves of a whole. The stones didn't just mark astronomical events, they curated them, turning celestial phenomena into multisensory experiences. A winter solstice at Newgrange wasn't merely observed, it was felt, as cold gave way to golden light and reverberating sound. The Nazca Lines didn't just point to water sources, they guided pilgrims in ceremonies pleading for rain. These monuments were alive, not because of some mystical energy, but because people animated them season after season, generation after generation, with movement, music, and meaning. The true genius of these sites lies in their duality. They were both precise scientific instruments and stages for communal ecstasy, where the cyclical became sacred. To walk these spaces today is to stand in the footprints of those who once turned celestial mechanics into theater, bridging the gap between earth and sky with nothing more than stone, shadow, and human imagination. The same hands that once shaped megaliths with stone tools now guide laser scanners across ancient ruins, revealing secrets hidden for millennia. LiDAR technology, light detection and ranging, has become archaeology's X-ray vision, stripping away dense jungle canopies to expose lost cities like Cambodia's Mahendraparvata or Mexico's Aguada Phoenix. In 2018, these lasers unveiled over 60,000 previously unknown Maya structures beneath Guatemalan rainforests, rewriting our understanding of their civilization's scale. But it's not just about finding ruins. LiDAR maps subtle elevation changes, exposing ceremonial causeways at Angkor Wat aligned with solstice sunrises and hidden earthworks near Stonehenge that may have guided processions. Suddenly, isolated monuments emerge as parts of vast ritual landscapes, their true significance only visible from the digital sky. Beneath the surface, ground-penetrating radar pulses through soil like sonar through water, detecting buried anomalies without lifting a shovel. At Petra, this technology pinpointed a previously unknown monumental structure deep under desert sands, while scans of Tutankhamun's tomb hinted at hidden chambers, though later debates proved how interpretation remains as crucial as the tools themselves. The real breakthrough comes when combining techniques. In Italy's Pompeii, thermal imaging and muon radiography, which uses cosmic rays to see through stone, work in tandem to map intact villas beneath volcanic rock, their frescoes preserved like insects in amber. These non-invasive methods aren't just preserving sites, they're allowing us to virtually peel back layers of history like pages in a book. Three-dimensional modeling then stitches these discoveries into immersive experiences. Using photogrammetry, overlapping photographs converted into 3D maps, researchers reconstructed Scotland's Ness of Brodgar as it stood 5,000 years ago, sunlight glinting off its painted stones. At Egypt's Temple of Carnac, VR headsets now transport visitors back to its New Kingdom heyday, complete with the scent of incense and the sound of chanting priests. But beyond spectacle, these models solve practical puzzles. Digital recreations of Baalbek's megaliths demonstrated how Roman cranes could have lifted 1,000-ton blocks, while stress simulations on Easter Island's Moai revealed their most stable walking angles. The most tantalizing applications lie in decoding celestial alignments. Advanced software can recreate prehistoric night skies with pinpoint accuracy, testing whether Carnac's menhirs truly mirrored the Milky Way or if Ohio's Serpent Mound coiled in sync with lunar cycles. At Choco Canyon, archaeoastronomers used 3D projections to prove that spiral petroglyphs cast dagger-like shadows during equinoxes, a phenomenon invisible to the naked eye today due to centuries of cliff erosion. Yet for all their power, these tools raise new questions. When LiDAR detected a potential chamber beneath the Great Pyramid's descending passage, it ignited debates about robots versus conservation. Drones can map Machu Picchu's terraces in hours, but should they fly over living sacred sites? Technology doesn't replace intuition, it amplifies it. The same patient observation that let Neolithic builders track solstices now guides scientists programming algorithms to spot patterns across continents. What's emerging isn't just a clearer picture of the past, but a dialogue between ancient and modern minds. As satellite imagery traces the Nazca Lines extensions and AI deciphers Indus Valley script, we're not just solving mysteries, we're learning to ask better questions. The stones remain silent, but through light, sound, and silicon, they're finally beginning to speak. The same wind that once carried prayers to the gods now erodes the carved faces of Easter Island's moe, grain by grain. Rainwater seeps into the cracks of Göbekli Tepe's ancient pillars, while the breath of millions of tourists raises humidity inside Egypt's pyramids, slowly dissolving pigments painted when pharaohs ruled. These monuments have survived millennia, but their greatest challenge isn't time, it's us. The very curiosity that drives us to uncover their secrets also threatens to erase them. Take Machu Picchu, where foot traffic from over 1 million annual visitors wears down original Inca stonework faster than nature ever could. Authorities have implemented timed tickets and restricted pathways, but balancing access with preservation remains a tightrope walk. Meanwhile, urban sprawl creeps toward Teotihuacan's outskirts, where vibrations from nearby highways risk destabilizing the pyramid of the sun's fragile internal structure. Even well-intentioned interventions can backfire. Chemical preservatives applied to India's Ajanta caves in the 1970s accelerated fungal growth, forcing costly reversals. Technology offers a lifeline. Laser scanning creates millimeter-perfect digital twins of sites like Palmyra, both for study and as blueprints should restoration become necessary. At Lascaux, France, the original cave paintings damaged by mold after 20th century exposure now exist solely as a painstaking replica, while the authentic art rests in climate-controlled darkness. Drones monitor hard-to-reach sites like Cambodia's Angkor Wat for structural shifts, spotting cracks before they become collapses. These tools don't just preserve, they reveal. When the Acropolis was scanned, researchers discovered ancient stonemasons' marks invisible to the naked eye, clues to construction techniques lost for 2,500 years. Yet conservation isn't just about physics, it's about ethics. Should Stonehenge's missing lintels be replaced, altering its silhouette to match prehistoric blueprints? Does restoring the Parthenon sculptures with new marble honor the past or falsify it? Indigenous voices are reshaping these debates. In Australia, Aboriginal elders work with archaeologists to rebury sacred artifacts after scanning, honoring traditions that view certain knowledge as too potent for public display. Similarly, Navajo Nation leaders have restricted photography of Chaco Canyon's solstice alignments, protecting spiritual practices from commodification. The race against decay is also a race against forgetting. When ISIS dynamited Nimrod's Assyrian reliefs, they didn't just destroy stone, they severed a link to the celestial maps those carvings may have held. Each loss makes the remaining sites more precious. Perhaps the ultimate lesson these monuments teach isn't about the past but the future, that preservation isn't passive. It's a choice, one that demands we weigh our hunger for connection against our duty to safeguard these whispers from antiquity. The stones have endured ice ages and empires. Whether they survive the Anthropocene depends on what we value more, relics to gawk at or living bridges to the cosmos as our ancestors saw it. Even with satellites scanning every inch of our planet and supercomputers modeling ancient skies, the megaliths guard their deepest secrets with silent defiance. Take the abandonment of Göbekli Tepe. Why bury such a monumental complex with deliberate care after centuries of use? Was it a ritual closing, like sealing a time capsule, or did shifting climates force its builders to retreat? The same question haunts the Maya, whose towering pyramids in Tikal and Palenque were swallowed by jungle while their cities still thrived. Unlike wars or natural disasters that leave clear scars, these exits feel intentional, as if the monuments completed some sacred cycle we've yet to decipher. Then there's the enigma of transportation. The basalt columns of Baalbek's trilithon weigh over 800 tons each, equivalent to 2 fully loaded 747 jets. Contemporary engineers struggle to replicate their movement even with modern cranes, yet ancient builders positioned them with millimeter precision. Theories abound: anti-gravity devices, lost lever systems, even acoustic levitation inspired by Tibetan monks who allegedly moved stones with sound. But the simplest explanation might be the most humbling generations of laborers refining techniques through trial and error, their methods lost because they required no written manual, only practiced hands and collective memory. Celestial alignments pose another tantalizing frontier. We've mapped solstice markers at famous sites, but what about subtler patterns? At Peru's Chanquillo, 13 towers snake across a ridge like a stone serpent, their gaps functioning as a solar calendar with uncanny accuracy. Yet nearby, researchers recently discovered a massive geoglyph of a crouching feline, its outline only visible from space. Could it mirror a forgotten constellation or mark an undiscovered celestial event? Similarly, new LiDAR scans of Cambodia's Angkor Wat reveal hidden earthworks aligned not just with solstices, but with the rare lunar standstill, a phenomenon occurring every 18.6 years. The most thrilling possibility that we've barely scratched the surface. Less than half of Egypt's estimated pyramids have been excavated, while the Amazon's vast lost cities remain shrouded in vegetation. Even well-studied sites surprise us, like when a sinkhole near Mexico's Pyramid of the Moon exposed a tunnel lined with mercury, possibly symbolizing an underworld river. Each discovery peels back another layer, reminding us that these monuments weren't built to be solved, but to endure. What keeps researchers awake isn't just the unanswered questions, it's the realization that our ancestors saw connections we're only beginning to glimpse. The same stars they tracked still shine, the same solstice sun still rises, but their understanding of those cycles was woven into every stone they set. Every alignment we decode reveals 10 more, a fractal puzzle whispering that the true purpose of these sites might not lie in any single function, but in their ability to hold multitudes: calendar, temple, tomb, and cosmic mirror, all at once. The mystery isn't a flaw in our knowledge, it's the monument's final gift, ensuring they'll never cease to teach us. There's a quiet magic in running your fingers along the weathered grooves of a megalith carved before written language existed. These monuments don't just belong to archaeologists or historians, they're part of a story that includes every one of us. When we stare up at the Great Pyramid or trace the spirals of Newgrange, we're not just looking at relics of the past, we're confronting the very essence of human curiosity. What grabs hold of us isn't just the how or the when, it's the why. Why did cultures separated by oceans and millennia feel the same irresistible pull to carve their understanding of the cosmos into stone? Maybe it's the humility these sites inspire. In an age where we measure progress in nanoseconds and pixel perfection, standing before a monument like Göbekli Tepe, crafted with nothing but stone tools and collective vision, forces us to reconsider what true sophistication means. These builders didn't have satellites or supercomputers, yet they mapped the stars with a precision that still staggers us. Their achievements whisper a provocative idea: that knowledge isn't just about accumulating data, but about listening to the world with patient reverence. Then there's the thrill of the unsolved. Unlike a museum exhibit with neat placards explaining every detail, these monuments resist easy answers. the more we study them, the more layers we uncover. Take the debate over Stonehenge's blue stones. Were they prized for their healing properties, as some suggest, or did their journey from Wales hold a deeper ceremonial significance? The lack of closure isn't frustrating, it's intoxicating. It turns history into a living conversation, where each discovery sparks new questions rather than shutting them down. But perhaps what resonates most is the way these sites dissolve time. When you stand in Choco Canyon during the winter solstice and watch sunlight slide down a petroglyph exactly as it did 1,000 years ago, you're not just observing the past, you're participating in it. These alignments were meant to be experienced, not just analyzed. They remind us that the people who built them weren't so different from us. They laughed, mourned, and marveled at the stars just as we do. Their monuments aren't cold artifacts, they're bridges inviting us to glimpse the world through their eyes, to share for a moment their wonder. That's the real power of these mysteries. They don't just belong to textbooks or documentaries. They live in the goosebumps you feel when solstice light spills into an ancient tomb, or the quiet awe of realizing the same constellations that guided the Inca still shine above us. They're proof that history isn't a closed book, but an unfolding mystery, and we're all part of the next chapter. Imagine standing in the shadow of a megalith as the solstice sun rises, just as it did for people thousands of years before you. That visceral connection to the past isn't reserved for archaeologists. It's something anyone can experience firsthand. Many of these ancient sites now offer immersive virtual tours, letting you explore every carved spiral and celestial alignment from your living room. The British Museum's 3D model of Stonehenge, for example, allows you to walk the Salisbury Plain at sunset, tracing the same sight lines Neolithic builders used. But it's not just about observation. Platforms like Zooniverse host citizen science projects where you can help catalog petroglyphs or map alignments from satellite images, turning global enthusiasts into active researchers uncovering new patterns. For those who crave a more tangible connection, timing your visit to celestial events transforms sightseeing into time travel. Arrive at Newgrange for the winter solstice lottery, and you might witness dawn light piercing the tomb's inner chamber, a spectacle limited to just a few dozen visitors annually. Or join the summer solstice crowds at Stonehenge, where modern druids, astronomers, and curious travelers gather to greet the sunrise between the Sarsens, continuing a tradition that stretches back over 4 millennia. These moments bridge the gap between past and present, letting you stand where ancient astronomers once did, watching the same cosmic clock they meticulously charted. Beyond passive visits, some sites invite deeper participation. In Peru, researchers enlist volunteers to help document erosion on the Nazca Lines using smartphone photogrammetry apps. In Scotland, amateur astronomers contribute to the Callanish Stones Lunar Alignment Project by recording shadow patterns during rare moonrises. Even local communities play vital roles. The Maori-led restoration of Aotearoa's ancient star-watching platforms combines traditional knowledge with modern conservation, proving that stewardship of these sites is a living practice, not just historical preservation. What makes these experiences extraordinary isn't just the monuments themselves, but how they turn observers into collaborators. When you adjust a 3D model to test an alignment theory or photograph a petroglyph for a digital archive, you're not just learning about history, you're helping to rewrite it. These stones have always been more than static relics. They were meant to be engaged with, to spark wonder and dialogue across generations. Whether through a VR headset or the soles of your boots on sacred ground, the invitation remains the same: to add your voice to an ancient conversation that's still unfolding. As we stand at the edge of these ancient mysteries, one truth echoes louder than any theory: these monuments were never meant to be fully understood. That's the paradox that makes them so captivating. The more we study their alignments, the more we realize their builders weren't just marking time or worshipping gods. They were encoding the very essence of what it means to be human. Take the way Stonehenge's blue stones shimmer with quartz veins under moonlight, or how Machu Picchu's staircases mimic the constellation's descent toward the Urubamba River. These aren't accidental details. They're deliberate choices, a language without words, speaking across millennia to anyone willing to listen. What's remarkable isn't just the precision of these structures, but the universality of their themes. From the jungles of Cambodia to the deserts of Peru, cultures who never met still raised stones to the same stars, charted the same solstices, and asked the same unanswerable questions. It's as if the night sky itself was a shared teacher, whispering lessons about cycles and connections that resonated deep in the human spirit. Even today, when we gaze at the Pleiades or track the moon's path, we're participating in that same ancient dialogue, just with different tools. But here's the real wonder: these monuments refuse to be pinned down. Just when we think we've cracked their code, whether as astronomical calendars or sacred tombs, they reveal another layer. The Nazca Lines might map underground water sources, but they also mirror star patterns from 2,000 years ago. Göbekli Tepe's animal carvings could be zodiac symbols or a prehistoric epic carved in stone. The ambiguity isn't a flaw, it's the point. These sites were designed to hold multiple meanings, to adapt as cultures shifted, ensuring their relevance would outlast empires and languages. So what do we do with these enigmas? We keep exploring, of course, but also something simpler. We let them humble us. In an age where answers are a click away, there's magic in standing before a megalith and admitting, "I don't know." That's where the real conversation begins, not just about how they were built, but why they still matter. Maybe their greatest lesson isn't about the past at all, but about patience, about learning to see the world as interconnected as these builders did. The next time you encounter an ancient alignment, try this. Pause, look up, then look closer, because sometimes the most profound discoveries aren't hidden in the stones, but in what they awaken within us. Now it's your turn. Do you think these monuments were meant to guide the living, honor the dead, or something even stranger? Drop your theories in the comments. We're all detectives in this grand, unsolved mystery. And if you've enjoyed this journey through time, hit that subscribe button to join us as we keep unraveling history's most mesmerizing puzzles. The past isn't finished speaking yet.